Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. Talking about one of the big issues before the Tennessee General Assembly. We're talking about the proposed gas tax. The governor has a plan. There are some other plans. We have had Representative David Hawk on, a Republican, with his plan. We now have Representative Ray Clemmons on, Democrat from Nashville. He has a plan as well when it comes to this gasoline tax. And we want to hear from you. We're taking calls. We're also streaming this live on Facebook. We have Jimmy Donald Morton saying, when are they going to fix 440? We've talked about that over and over, but that's the question people keep asking.
Yeah, and especially they keep asking me because it runs right through the middle of my district, and it actually runs through Speaker Harwell's district. And so I can assure you that we have got that project on the list to be addressed very soon. If we can get the money, it will be addressed. But I can tell you this, if we don't get that, if we don't pass something to create new revenue, I think that plan is going to take about 26 years or something like that, they've told me, to accomplish because of the lack of revenue. So we have to have new revenue to address projects like this. And I've got 4 or 5 in my district alone addressing issues on Charlotte, Pike. Once you get out to White Bridge Road, I've got them on 440. I've got them all over. And so, you know, 440, again, like I said, it started out as a $50 million project, resurfacing project. I think it's up to $53 million now. So we have to address these before, you know, it gets so bad. And people are losing so much money right now because of the conditions of the roads. I saw a study the other day where the amount of people pay to repair their car or their tires and the damage it does to their cars is actually far and beyond what they will actually pay in a gas tax increase. So, but
that's somewhat distorted. So you're saying we need to pass this for it to be done quickly. If this is not passed, 440, there's not a lot of hope there.
It's on the list, but with no money, it's hard to do the projects. And so you'll string these projects out in the order they're on the list, and it could be, you know, 26 years or something ridiculous like that. We have to address these projects because our prosperity is going to plateau if we don't solve this problem today.
All right, let's go to Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Good evening.
Go right ahead.
Okay, here I go. All right, I've got a question about the F&E. You can address that after I'm finished if you don't mind. I want you to explain that more and how that works. And I just want to make a comment about, you know, putting this on the sales tax. I have heard over the years of corporations, and I'm not trying to nail Walmart. Walmart is good to me. But corporations like Walmart, they collect sales tax. And I've always heard that, you know, multinational corporations, you know, they're a global corporation, that if they collect sales tax, that they do not have to turn that in to the local, like county or city or even state, as long as they reinvest that in, say, like opening up more Walmart stores in China, for example. So correct me if I'm wrong. Can you please address the F&E? Thank you for your time.
F&E, okay.
Well, the franchise and excise tax, the argument being made by the administration is that they are really hearing it from manufacturing companies that our franchise and excise tax is a burden, is a barrier to entry in the state of Tennessee. I don't buy it. I think it may be in some parts of the state if they're trying to locate manufacturing companies to certain areas and they need to entice them with other things. You know, perhaps, then taxes are the way to do them. But, you know, we're recruiting a lot of jobs to the state of Tennessee. We're recruiting a lot of manufacturing companies. Now, I will just say we don't have enough time on the show for me to fully explain the F&E tax. If Lucy would like to email me at my legislative office, I will be happy to send her an explanation of that. And I apologize, but it is a pretty complex issue with multiple factors. So I'm happy to address that. But it is pretty much a manufacturing tax cut to the tune of $200+ million, which is coming out of our general fund.
That's a lot. I mean, the whole gasoline tax is raising about $300 million plus. So that's a big portion, and that is, I guess, some of the concern that I guess Democrats have is some of the cuts that corporations are getting. happy to see the cut to the sales tax on food. Is that right? Taxes on food. But there's that ongoing healthy debate, I think, that's out there.
Yeah, now you've got two schools of thought. I mean, we really are focused on, we realize that you have to, and when I say we, I'm referring to the Democratic caucus generally, is we realize this problem has to be solved. We believe in investing in infrastructure, and we realize and we're willing to accept that some taxes, like gas taxes and things, need to be addressed. We would like to see some more creative ways of doing it, like I said, and we're very happy, and we have pushed for that grocery tax cut. And we're pushing for more, and we'll continue to push for more. But you know, that's all going towards transportation issues. But I feel very strongly that if you're going to have an F&E corporate manufacturing tax cut, it doesn't belong in a transportation bill. Why not run it as a standalone piece of legislation? Let's debate the merits of it. Don't use it as a bait or a hook to try to get legislators to try to justify voting for a tax increase or to solve their road problem just to you know, give these corporate manufacturers a tax cut. It's a carrot in a bill for some that is unnecessarily there, and you know, it's hard to explain to people like those writing in right now and calling, oh, we're going to tax you, but we're going to give these corporations a huge tax cut. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. If we need to do it, let's debate it, but let's do it in a separate bill.
So here on Facebook, Michael Daniels is saying put a toll booth on I-65, and I've seen that a couple other comments. Put in a toll booth. Mm-hmm. Has that been discussed? Is that something that we might see in Tennessee? I know other states do it. What about the issue of a toll booth?
Well, I will honestly tell you, I think a toll booth, the idea of tolls in general are a way off in Tennessee. It's a tough environment to even discuss tolls. You generally can't have tolls in Tennessee right now under the law. But, you know, I've been out there studying. I've been in California, Florida, kind of with my family or others, and really looked at the way they do them. And, you know, a lot of people have this vitriolic reaction to the idea of tolls. But the way the tolls work now in most cases very successfully is instead of HOV lanes, you know, you never stop. There is no toll booth. You just drive down the interstate, and if you want to use that lane, you pay a rate, you know, depending on what the traffic is and time of day, and they pick up tolls like that. That's a very modern technology, high-tech way of doing it. No, the traffic never stops, doesn't create traffic jams, and so there are a lot of different ways to generate toll revenue. But I don't think the climate is ripe in the General Assembly today to even mention that word. It's hard enough to mention the word tax unless it has cut after it.
Tolls,
because they'll vote for that blindly. But tolls is a tough sell.
That's not realistic. Okay.
But it should be an alternative.
Let's go to Jeffrey. Hello, Jeffrey.
Yes, we don't need no more taxes on the gasoline. I was a state employee, highway department employee from 81 to 98. When I went to work there, we done our own guard railing, our own mowing, chipping of shoulders, everything. Now they've about contracted everything out. And they say they can do it cheaper, and it's been a proven fact. My cousin was a higher on up in highway maintenance, and he found out that the state employees could do it cheaper than contractors can. They're wasting too much money on contractors. The contractors have got in the pockets of the politicians. They're paving the same road every 3, 4, 5 years here in Dixon County. They just spent millions and millions on Main Street in Dixon, done away with a lot of the parking, put trees, concrete curbs, widened the sidewalks, less parking there now than there's ever been. Took another city, Dixon took what used to be a public parking lot, made a park out of it, took another parking lot and extended the fire department, and all they park in it is pickup trucks.
All right, well, let's talk about some of what you're talking about here. Contractors, he's saying essentially there's fat that could be cut. But the issue of contractors specifically, what do you think about his call there?
Well, he's going to get me teed up on a whole other issue of outsourcing. I'm one of the lead opponents of the governor's massive outsourcing scheme that he's been talking about in our colleges and universities now. He's wanting to privatize our state parks. Now, he's talking about outsourcing and contracting for infrastructure issues, but he's kind of teed me up on this whole governor's outsourcing scheme. But to get to this point, I mean, that's a fair question. There are public bidding, there's public contracts. I always believe that state employees can do it better. They're more invested. It's, you know, the character of our state is embedded within them, and they do a fantastic job in any role they play. So he makes a good point. But, you know, these gas taxes, his initial point about we don't need any higher taxes and we can fix some of this stuff, it raises a good issue of how we fund transportation in the state of Tennessee. We are backed into a corner because we are a pay-as-you-go state. We have direct funding system for transportation. It is a set-aside, essentially, account. Think of it as a separate account from the general fund where we fund education, healthcare, and those types of things. And the only way we pay for transportation in the state of Tennessee is gas taxes, use taxes, and the types of things that are generally proposed in this bill and most other legislation. And that's what I kind of touched on at the outset of our conversation is the robbing Peter to pay Paul idea of, oh, well, let's use this money from our surplus in the general fund and put it in the transportation fund. You can't do that because those are non-recurring dollars to pay for a recurring cost. It's a really tricky proposition when we could be giving our teachers pay raises. We could be, you know, we've got a major healthcare crisis in this state that we're going to require some real dollars. So that is why that has to stay over there to maintain the fiscal integrity of our general fund. And we, you know, like I said, you know, started with Governor Austin Peay back in 1923 down this course of pay-as-you-go or dedicated revenue system that we have. And so the options are limited to pay for the infrastructure improvements that we have to make to our transportation system. How
likely is it, do you think, that something like that could pass, that we would take money out of the surplus to do this? And I think that is, it's part of some other plans. We don't know what's going to pass right now, but do you think that is something that might pass?
Well, that was David Hawk. You had him on the show before, I believe, and he probably discussed that. You know, he's from Northeast Tennessee, and that's his proposition, and he has several others who agree with him. And generally, it makes a lot of sense. You know, the money's there, why not use it? But it really, you have to understand the way the budget works, and it's a complex system, I'll admit, but we have to maintain the fiscal integrity of our general fund, and that's why we can't rob Peter to pay Paul. We have to look at how we fund transportation in this state and step up to the plate and do it in an appropriate manner that has the least possible burden on working families and makes the most sense for people who use our roadways and our bridges. And then also, I think we need to get really creative, again, about creating and generating a new dedicated revenue stream for a forward-thinking mass transportation system.
All right, let's go to Nancy. Hello, Nancy.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Well, I've lived in places that had mass transit, and after my experiences there, I don't want mass transit in Nashville. All it does is transport crime around. And what I would like to see is more things like the Star that come in from the suburbs. They bring people in during commuting hours, and they take them home during commuting hours. But a general mass transit, that's a disaster, and it deteriorates rather rapidly. I would never use it. I don't mind paying another 6 cents a gallon on gas. I like the way we have a dedicated system that we just pay for our roads as we use them. I like Tennessee the way it's doing it right now.
Interesting. Okay. Well, what about that? That's interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you for the call.
That's a good argument. It's a good point. The problem is the Music City Star is a form of mass transit. The type of mass transit we're talking about is getting people and creating, basically completing the original plan for the Music City Star is what I would like to see. Having a leg go down to Franklin, having a leg go down to Murfreesboro, having one go up to Hendersonville and Clarksville. Those are the types of projects that we're talking about. That's the type of mass transit we're talking about. Now, public transportation, I think, is to what she's referring with regards to, you know, transporting people around. You know, that issue is raised occasionally, but we have got to figure out. The data is clear. While some may want the city and the state to stay the way it is today, the data is clear. the population growth rates in the state of Tennessee and in this larger Nashville region specifically are going to be such that we will essentially be paralyzed on the roadways and spend more time in our automobiles than we do at the office. And so that is a serious problem that we have to get serious about solving, because, you know, I think Nashville's character is fantastic. I love our infrastructure, our transportation system today, but it is not built for the long term, and it is not built in a manner that's conducive to the growth that we're going to experience, whether some of us want it or not.
And on Facebook, yeah, we've already had people commenting about being stuck in traffic on the way back and forth to Murfreesboro. Every morning you look, and they're waiting an hour or more, so that's a huge issue. All right, we're going to take a break. If you want to call, there's the number, 615-737+. Continue commenting as we stream live on our Facebook page. We'll take a break, be back right after this.